Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvatiputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
托举千波地心托举强，出自地罗波当那罗波，天就诸别波当阿地强，鸟的西罗居罗娑瓦的，上波图灭一念当主的，出天地狱的当着别名，这座各萨勒尼色莲波。了解是别觉了所望的，要有一面修见了着能，到我这波这边可就见，三界各种泡泡要子送，萨摩大愿觉了所望的，协助当别中昂阿天上。高当天边面波中等见，天就能就过去送拉送，高当那么能拉所完的，望见心的自己做阿梦，我到日边我修结造见，当阿天边道波开着见。要是就不见了所望的，就算个的老忙多结账，好了个的些年去做的，做到对莫我做事，真这边，看见了么能了所望的，让家所着跟了大爷们。给上他帮这边穷穷，在月这边他看在马眼，生在些年那那所望的，叫我跟到养到那么大，这边就这边那落水井，扫到了这也得说做呢，多久讲给个。念头也说三界就错觉就能拉想出不多当年就说老给姐姐这边做难见，到了别些三界诸不修三界，就当错觉就能拉想出不多当年就说老给姐姐这边做难见。罗罗宾舍三界诸佛修三界，就当初界就那那想诸佛多当年就中，大约界界界别所难界，罗罗宾舍三界诸佛修。嗯，问题是，当然是告诉爸爸去千年谁的了，去千年谁。我们那转那讲呢，可是等不图片我不也，你。다 중국권은 세거라 덴바지 중국권은 가슴이 인초 주비 체제라 중국권이 대체해서는 어떻게 대체직지로 그래서 중국권이 대체생인데 가리치도 추소말에 가르쳐 고고발에 뭐네 지금 거치 레베 대지 줄루바지 시고로 거치 레베서는 나서 역시 지정의 시주지 제거도 대소 되서라 뭐쳐데 나 대바에 세네 자샤 성지 말와
So, yes, yesterday we all observed the special day of the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma by Buddha Shakyamuni. The Four Noble Truths, the teachings of the Four Noble Truths was given after his enlightenment. So, just think about for what purpose Buddha has turned the wheel of Dharma. Why Buddha has turned the wheel of Dharma. Why we are celebrating and we're observing and considering that particular day as something that is very special and significant day for all of us. Is it really something that is just a belief of the believers, or it has some kind of significance?
Tendriki sanado dendera tempo koroge. Ani desu tabi chushi kuye ni sala tenja gowa mema nazi ne sheba shasane. Ngoba zoba san jema tata. Ani ngason maso naon de shu yalon de lan san koron. Machi shisha tanji labi ti nahi ki silche kande jin so na netan yosu zoba de chenre da chirangi netan dere shasane. Ani tangshi mare katu. Ani digi lan den mene wa jene. Ani neka yu tene. Ani mema nes ni soso lele jene shugu yin so do.
But after his enlightenment, right after his enlightenment, although the Buddha has gained the realizations or have seen all phenomena as if that he sees things in his palm of his hand. Yet at the same time, he has not claimed that I can just go out and teach and give the Dharma teachings to everyone, because I have gained such realizations. He has not given these teachings, and he has not taken this initiative right after his enlightenment. It took a time for him for waiting for appropriate time and waiting for the appropriate disciples who will be able to understand what he is going to be taught. And so therefore he adopted silence after his enlightenment rather than giving teachings.
다 되는 게 가지고 다 손지 전에 다 아이언보 자신이 세제 콜로 제동된 데버테네 최저 콜로콜로 저 소아타네 최소 말했어요. 저 체체데 디자테네 저 코마데 좀보라 다미 벤제서로 코마데 좀보라 토마초 소인 베칼라 니 덴바실레 차데 최저 콜로 최소선sel로 임베칼라 지 줄루바지게 제 개차 많이 받잖아요. 아니 랑도 제네세 거로 도샤기 쇼라이니 진대기 쇼라 도기니 세네 랑도 쇼라 몰라니 세네 케제 셴베 컬라 융업이니 치다 팀베코네 융업이니 치다 팀베코네 마 치소네 마도 지 라치라 소아타네 지레니 지 레치라 소아타네 지네바시게세 케체 된데 메이마체 또 되지 신리다 팀베토니 신주제 지제 송하.
So it is to say that after request of the Indra, the god Indra, by offering Buddha as a will, the Dharma will, the golden Dharma will, with the 1,000 spokes golden Dharma will, in other words, as offered to request Buddha to give the teachings of the Dharma. As a result, Buddha then turned the will of the Dharma at the first disciples of his teachings, are the 5 disciples, what you call the 5 disciples who were completely ripened or become a receptive for receiving these teachings. So now when we look at this teachings, the first teachings of the Dharma, it is not something that is just a belief or Buddha has given some kind of teachings that you should think of, you should pray to the God, or you should pray to some kind of mighty being so that you will be liberated, or you will gain a spiritual liberations and so on. He has not said such things, but rather Buddha has given the teachings something that is very cohesive and something that is very correspond to the reality of and an experience of the human beings and the experience of the sentient beings, and given the teachings on what is to be abandoned and what is to be adopted, and based on the correct reasonings.
야, 당가서 뭐시 뭐 거지. 또 이나가 도베 대 가동부 대시 총고세는 소마레데 치르셰 되잖아. 아니 대바 티모아세네레 대바 메발라 소어세나 라우레다. 덴바시테 미게 레 담보아세네레 가서 조타모 시코로 라라기 루시샤체소나. 데바시 인트레시테 자데 타마 아니 토미 마리바텔라 추바데니 tobe ta sanje ni degi karsa mariba tegin zetang gawa de ni ripa ishe senare tunyu tobe lo de ni tobe ta sanje rangshin chuba de zame be lo she be ka le she yong de ni mege thoma chu sombi deja thmo ane de thama sangha je pa de manjo pa de ni demba ni yin na ja de ko jima chi ge den de de ta deja rang ra ge nyale ge remba khron de ja ne ro tu e chi.
So when Buddha giving these teachings, the first turning of the world of the Dharma, the Four Noble Truths, it is to say that the actual disciples of the Four Noble Truths are said to be the followers of the Hinayana, or we could say the Theravada. However, when it comes to the commentaries of the Four Noble Truths, and Four Noble Truths is commentated, and the commentary is found in all four major philosophical tenets, beginning from Strantika all the way to the Madhyamaka, particularly when it comes to the Madhyamaka. And then it talks about it is how through realization of the Four Noble Truths, one will be able to eradicate our own negative thoughts and emotions, particularly the self-grasping and grasping at self and grasping at phenomena, and how one's, grasping at self or grasping at phenomena, that seeing phenomena as something that exists intrinsically, and how by realization of these Four Noble Truths can be eradicate those intrinsicness, grasping at intrinsicness.
야, 맞아. 텔레코 대화 시행이나 변화 동해기 싸워대 긴종리 긴종데 가서나 연락주니 도매 말이 봐. 도매 말이 봐대 아니 토마 디자 티모가 인지 제바 내야서데 다나 가서 거서 봐봐. 아니 오마 타제 티모 많이 비기 말이 봐. 아니 되게 말이 봐대 인지 땅 가와게 아니 다음에 또 비셔 세네시에데 아니 상하기 시에데라 아니 다시 예 마치 베게 아니 돈이 또 베어시 시에 가라 아니 그 토미 말이 바긴 제단가 로 코마기 지고이 토네 아니 산제 사바는 로에로 맞어 이거 카데 장이 되로 말이 벌 카데 장이.
So it is therefore in this teachings of the Four Noble Truths, what is the actual causes and conditions or actual causes of one's sufferings? And an origin of suffering is the one that causes all kind of sufferings. And an origin of suffering in this particular context refers to the ignorance. Ignorance is the one that give rise to all kind of sufferings and negative, other particular negative thoughts and emotions. So now it is through cultivation of the wisdom realizing selflessness, or the wisdom realizing emptiness, will be able to counteract those ignorance pertaining to self and ignorance pertaining to phenomena. And such teachings or such practice of cultivation of wisdom realizing emptiness, wisdom realizing selflessness, will become a primary antidote or the counterforce for elimination of our negative thoughts and emotions, right from the beginning of the gross level of negative thoughts and emotions, and all the way to the subtle level of negative thoughts and emotions, by engaging in practice of the sacred mantrayana. When it comes to so therefore, this realization of selflessness and realization of lack of intrinsic existence of phenomena are such understanding is the main antidote towards all our negative thoughts and emotions, which practice will be such practice is adapted or carried on from the beginning all the way to the practice of sacred mantrayana.
됐지. 당가 속에 들려 인저로 당가 주치다 남비 jonse nare ta tmo she yu de kala semi chi bure da mare se he de 대신 내로 치지 말로 바랑이 이게 바다다 잖아 치타와진데 때는 데라 아니 재미집에서 그라 근데 러유도 거라 재미집에서 고 가서 남주지기 지생이 돈에 라니 이제 바다다 잖아 치지 말로 때통에 가사칠 재미집에서는 언제 제외될 거라 지 쇼롱도서는 계획면도 왔고 자체해서 돼.
So it is therefore that's the individual who can be considered as the valid teacher or who are considered as an authentic teacher of the Dharma is made on the basis of whether such individual can give teachings on Four Noble Truths, accordingly. And not only that they gain the realization of Four Noble Truths by teacher him or herself, but also to be able to elicit it, the Four Noble Truths, at a very lucid form, in accordance to the dispositions and mental inclination of the followers.
야, 근데 이정으로 뒤송을 더 길어 두제 첨부 되면 네 때문에 더 병원 보대. 아니 가르사 추지 제다스마 일라 투비 존에서 데데 템바기 던데지 데기 첨부돼. 아니 디자 치다셔 디자 뭐라 뭐지라. 아니 생게 트이 된의 쇼네 던데지 송에 저래 상근데 지로와. 네 소소기 턱기로 두제 첨부지. 아니 랑게 데제 나가들 메바체. 아니 되게 커다 첨부네 되네 루루 토메네서 다 디거 커다 첨부를 루루 토메는 이제 제가 말했다. 뭐 예초로 이나이 처음에 담아서 로이 시작이 제게 저러 다 가지 된지기 밑에네 아니 랑게 전체 사이나미 바제 아니 다 dense 땅 나도 진서는 다 실을 마시는 지 그런 배차는 소만하게 지기 레데제는 시에도 거라 가지 된지기 바다 다다발 가지 주메제는 해도로 된지기 소속의 소환을 질래 랭에서나 그래서 야 대반의 지 용초로 더 상단적으로 지 용초에 진도 가지 된지기 가서 메바체체.
So this is how we should think of when we think about the Buddha and his teachings. That he has given these teachings being on the thrones to his disciples. And Buddha, someone who has who had this immaculate skills and to give the teachings to the disciples out of his great compassion. So when we are able to think in this way, that we will be able to, generate irreversible faith and devotion towards the Buddha. So it is therefore at this time one should take this opportunity to imagine or to think of Buddha or to contemplate Buddha, who was given such immaculate teachings towards his disciples, and who is surrounded by all those great beings such as Maitreya, Arinavachana, Asanga, and so forth, and all the way to one's own teacher, who actually gives these teachings, who elicited these teachings to oneself. And for myself here, although I am trying my best to go through these explanations, due to the lack of knowledge, I may not be able to do all this as lucid as possible. Yet at the same time, we're all being here together and able to, generate positive thoughts, such as having devotion, cultivating faith and devotion to the Buddha, and contemplating and visualizing the Buddha and his disciples in this way, will be able to accumulate tremendous amount of merits. So let's visualize Buddha.
네, 다른 거 소지 대사대 소소 찍고 소리 지민바제. 아니 맞소게 여서게 사차대 버전. 다는 난카기 오래요. 다 난키 오기 맞소게 지 유로데 난키 오래요. 유지세데. 다 간제 된게 처음도. 아니 선제 용서 도바지 다 간제 맞소게 죽진 선제 이미 쳐봐요 말에 좀에게 선제를 용서 도바데는 템바 투병 onboard이게. 아니 손 존에 제사기. 인터넷에 라와치노랑 가서 강가 데리 가서 봐봐래 도요 선에 랑도 얘네들 시지 말로 빠진 가서 감각이 녀바 책임이 세지로 아니 시대 시가 만다 은행 가로 어떻게 나도 가랑가기 우두리 지저는 여기 에다 상을 좀 은행 거래 들어지기 돈은 삼박이 소화지기 돈에 근데 되서도 제토로잖아 나저기 생기 니 바차세 대 자신 제 아니 나저기 미반도 생기 생기잖아 나와야 지지로 근데 배 개체뭐 또 결혼 저동다 근데 소소 삼박 자체로 거용을 제거해 소소소소를 러자데 추다 팀도 러자 강저 두두 semba chapo de ni chusho la kan ku tu tu che ge namba ken de so ge ta to bot.
So if one is able to do this visualization for the Buddha, and then in their presence, oneself is being in their presence, oneself is surrounded all sentient beings, just as we ourselves have a genuine aspiration to receive the teachings of the Buddha, and similarly think about all sentient beings have a similar aspiration to receive these teachings of the Dharma for the benefit of all of the sentient beings. So if one is able to, cultivate such positive thoughts, one will be able to implant a genuine imprints. It is through, implanting imprints or the keeping imprints within one's continuum. One will then eventually be able to have this realization, the spiritual realizations. Although at this time, regardless of how much practice that we may put forth, we may not be able to have spiritual realizations. But it is due to one's own efforts and energy that one may have, put forth, which will enable one to accumulate tremendous amount of merits and implants the strong or the powerful imprints. So in the future, as a result of one's implanting such imprints, one will be able to gain this spiritual realizations. So it is very important for us to be able to cultivate this, faith and devotions to the Buddha and his disciples or his entourage, and extend one's compassion towards all other sentient beings without exception. So let's do this for a minute.
Ai, ta ten ryo jin ryo, ta ten ryo kino cheba chen chen gong ne gong senpa shen yu che, ane shang cho lang rei chen mong gong si che rwa.
So with these motivations, the teachings that we're receiving, or the discourses we are discussing today, is the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Chanchu Lam Rim Chenmo.
Ama tenpa ne, nge, tsayi lami pa de, ne lama teta de shi shawa, de rin de ri chi na ya re ya sang ya re chi. Ane yang tepa ten ryo to ne, mi pa chi ye cha na, ane chungu tsenpa de bin zeba bi che wa cha ro.
So then just think about, right from the beginning of the Buddha Shakyamuni up until one's own spiritual teacher, they may have gone through this process of trainings or the practice and gain the spiritual realizations. May I too follow the same, so which will enables one to have and reinforce one's own faith and devotion towards one's guru and lineage gurus, which will cover the greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings as a full noble source.
아니 취재 지화서는 게 단지로나 이게 아니 상초랑이 치마세나리 상지기 송간에지나 대히 내로 시지 말로가 템바레 송반장제 아니 그런 예 데로 아마서 송체만라 때네 강사대 체마인바 근데 송텔라 취재 야고 저한테 강사들 취재 저 집어 걸어 그래 인사데 아니 대히 내로 시지 말로 바데 아니 상초랑이 치미기 저자래 아니 내 단지 냥선이나 내가 근데 된지지게 돼서 제가 레그레 상인도 지려오이나 아니 라 가살라미 쳐와다 용기 쳐니까 걸어보라.
So then, just by reflecting the teachings on the Four Noble Truths given by the Buddha and how wonderful it is, it's not that, as we talked earlier, it's not just a belief. The Four Noble Truths are something that is really, correspond to reality. It's not something that would just mere belief, or you just follow what the teachers taught. But rather, we know that how the causal cause and effect process, the teachings of the cause and effect process is given, that we will see it, we know it. So by knowing that, and how the teachings, we were able to know the authenticity of teachings, and that such understanding of authenticity of teachings will enable us to understand the teacher who taught this particular teachings is authentic teacher. So therefore, the next two lines, the outlines of the showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teachings will be covered, will be done just by reflecting that the teachings, reflecting one's mind upon the teachings of the Buddha of Four Noble Truths.
네, 당가 소되네 사제 소바 예시 제다 샤와생인데 아니 다징에 거서 보고야니 최친이 제비 거 옛날에 소소 쇼게 놓는 뭔가 많이 이제 받아 옛날에 그때에는 소소소가 개개한테 이제 기노치 요소다 지체토나 근데 그 당가 속에 지 메시지를 지 남아 개개선날에 상지기 때문에 제선날에 아니 지 한이 돼서 제라서나 드리지 고걸내는 마도 당가 좀 메시지를 지 저저 쇼셔 제다 다 쳐서 나를 가고 제소 인사디 고 sembatele shiden da wuji da kange je tebi ko le jinse sano to ne donle che tuwe de chi da ji yen la pensen da wuji yong tuwe ge be tan da ngone na so da me na me chu ni che ge chi ji ro da.
So then next is how to listen to the teachings in which both teachings and then its authors are great, right? It's with the third outlines. For that, we talked that many times during our teachings in our previous teachings, that right from the beginning of one's day, early morning, cultivating appropriate motivation is something that is crucial as a practitioner of the Dharma, and so think about that. I will do my best to be able to, able to change my mind, in other words, towards better, better mental attitude, in other words. I will do my best, and I will do at the, at the fullest extent to be able to make my mind or better mental attitude by cultivating appropriate motivations for the benefiting other sentient beings and refraining, cultivating harmful intentions and so forth. So this is this actually covers the third outlines. With such motivations, covers the third outlines.
아, 당가서 사제 제바 아니다. 담방 담방을 저놈만 제다 되게 봐. 세인데 담방을 텔라 근데 런치 사와 신이 때문에 지금 때는 로치 다셔야 봐. 이 생에 아니 라리치 거기 싸이 가서 사제를 지세워라. 용어이 사제도.
The actual outlines of the Lam Rim Chenmo, great teachers on the stage to path enlightenment, is a sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions, which has the two subdivisions of how to rely on the teacher, which is the root of one's spiritual path, and how the students then train their mind after having relied on teachers.
그때는 로치 다셔야 봐. 니 대대는 님벌님 비시고 와도 님벌 제단님 비시니 동벌이 단 님벌 제단님 비시라니 란지 나자랑 님벌제도 님벌님 뭐지. 단지 동벌이 님벌님 생각을 주변 중에도 도모에 란지를 많이 하서는 주변 제도 도모 주변 챔비 란지를 많이 하서는 세제 동벌님지 손발라서 대체는 주고 생제 코나데 센데 제다 집에서 생제는 쇼발로 뭐 주의지 다 동번인지 생제는 니 손발라니 손 생제는 손발로 로발로 이제 터시레로 로베 산제 문주거든 로발로 베rem바니 시바제 동번인지 다 로발로 베rem바니 시바라니 쇼바철라라데 다 체바도 도제테바나 주의지 동발라서 샤산 로발 한대 정을 잔네 자세 담바서 손에 제단님이 주의지 동번인지 전에 제단에 배치니 니 나치 나자라 말이 니 제말 레 쇼바치라라데다 제바다 파샤 타마니라 너 제제 다 동보라 파샤 타마니라 동보지 다 파샤 타마니라 러체라 주 신에라도 페시바 신에 데니 띵인 데게 디제데 마신에 라토니 뭐 데니가 관계베 제세 고링이 바 소셜로 제제 동보지 다 소셜로 제라서 신에 말 소셜로 제라 신에 라토로 제 다 라토로 제레 제 라토 제 초데 마 라토 관계 세 라토 러데 라토 관계 제 관계 라토 주베 제 시에사레 다 동보라서 자대도서 녀대 저 사람으로서 르르주 공부들이 수제 다시마 어머니제 다와테나 배바지 다 동번이 다와테나 배면이 대코나니는 주비르가 대코나니 때나 배고 다 동물이 대코나니 때나 배고라서 가장으로서 대가버데 타랑강이 루시바 시바텔라테나 다와지라 주비르 바시디 내가서 아니 대가버데 타랑강이 루시바 생이 될레데 다마서 거서 봐봐 아니 가서 오미종이 깨다 채셔대 오마 탄저이죠 오마 탄저이죠네 깨다 채셔대 네 가장으로서 생이 인디 개체의 시에도 가자 들어와.
So we are on the chapter of of the Madhyamaka Prasangika's viewpoint, following the or discussing on the Madhyamaka Prasangika's standpoint, and in Madhyamaka Prasangika, in order for one to know actual Madhyamaka Prasangika's standpoint, one has to understand how what is the object of negation, and how the object of negation will be negated, and how do we identify object of negations.
야, 디노게 가서 게때 종 깨다 체주선을 종 하셔될 아니 단다 배 간제게 좀 엄마 탄지게 다 엄마 랑지바다 탄저 아니 따라 차라 예 말이었어. 바 집어체 아니 디노는 맨 엄마 탄저와도 엄마 랑지바니게 따와게 차라다 나서지 제바도 여러 생인데 니 정말로 맞서봐 쳔비 아니 손바게 아니 디거라 아니 가서 자중 장네 아니 디 시반데레 데레서 되게 논의에 좀 차셔지 같은 것도 다들 오더래라다.
So it's the most complex subject matter that we're dealing with at this point, because in Tibet, in earlier during the early disseminations, they have many scholars have said that there's no difference between Madhyamaka Prasangika's standpoint and Madhyamaka Swatantika's standpoint when it comes to the actual ultimate nature of reality. However, when when Lama Tsongkhapa came, Lama Tsongkhapa stated that there's a big difference, he said. It's a big difference. There's a big difference between Madhyamaka standpoint between Madhyamaka Prasangika and Madhyamaka Swatantikas. So therefore, not only that Lama Tsongkhapa stated that, but he brought all those teachings from the great Indian masters and the commentaries, and then demonstrating how the differences between the standpoint, the difference between Madhyamaka Prasangika and Madhyamaka Swatantikas.
야, 당연히 가서 봐봐 되네 마 강사사지 말로 가서 아니 대 배제 되니 시소적 공부지 장소에서 뒤자에서 그래야 돼. 되는 아니 되네 마로 너네 테스트 코사트에서 내기 자기 채널로 여기 마코 딜린데 참여해서 타고 싶이도 대단하서 랑게 뭐 주비 제에 케비 다이어트 되어 나라 뭐 가서 뭐뭐 여바마 랑게 뭐 주반 되어다 뭐뭐 매바마 조쇼죠 뭐뭐 나제 된시 내 대시바 탄제케반 되어바 니제서 시민진비 시제의 장변나 랑루메비 콘수메론라 여메라 소비 쇼 니장 니스마이 쇼 다브인바 신의 세외 하 미진고바 당 여메도 마와 시시지거스 시바제 예노 리바투지발레 솜바네 소도 안다네 테스베 카미스.
So we're on the page 236, right after the verse, beginning from this paragraph, after one verse of Aryadeva's 400 stanzas. It says, hence Chandrakirti used his passage to explain that neither
Page 243.
243.
Thank you.
게니마 코스나 초조기 데이트 코드나 갈레마뇨도 마 이샤테나 말로다 바차자로라 다가 소체 젠데마도.
So it is not just saying, but when we have gone through those discussions, and we should always read the chapters that we have been, we have discussed, and it will be very helpful. So you can read. Hence, Chandrakirti used this passage to explain that neither the essentialists and who hold that things exist essentially, nor the nihilists who believe in the total repetition of the functioning of things such as form can refute those who accept that imputed existence while repudiating essential or the substantial existence. Consequently, the passage cannot be used as a source for those that claim that Madhyamakas have no positions of their own. It is quite clear that the position of existence and non-existence and so forth refers to the instances of the dualistically advocated positions. Hence, they are to be explained just as they were previously in our treatment of the refutation of the trilemma, and a way to refute the advocates of the existence and non-existence. Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's 60 stanzas on reasoning passage and Madhyamaka have no position states. That's all.
Ripa chuchiben ripa chuchibale sombane long teyin jebas kange tse teta ngombo meba dada jenji shu misiba teyi tse esa teta tonga nanji nyomoba na ngeba gaba joro she shu mebi jensento ngombo meba sona tenyang rangi tseni ji tang ranjin la ngombo shaba yinde tenshi nibala shena te meba tongi nyomonga ba somba tang ge so dena sen ga ye so dena alo dena rajin ngbo khenli bi sho meba la sho meba somba yinde lon de gon de je pas tu ben je pas le so de to shin tra ba
The Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's 60 stanza reasonings passage, Madhyamakas have no position states that since there are no such real things, neither one's own position nor those of others can occur. the afflictions of those who see this will definitely stop. So this commentary gives the non-existence of the real things as the real things as a reason for having no positions. Moreover, real things here must be taken to refer to its intrinsic character or the intrinsic nature. For to construe it as a referring to a functionality would contradict the statement statement that seeing its non-existence stops the afflictions. Therefore, insofar as Madhyamaka have no positions in which they accept intrinsically existing things, so this text says that they have no positions. That's because the Chandrika is commentary on the 60 stanzas of the reasonings. So, Madhyamaka Prasangika is also known as someone who accept non-intrinsic reality, someone who accept non-characteristic phenomena. That's all. So when it says that Madhyamaka who believe in a total repetition of the functionality of things, such as functionality of things, that doesn't mean the Madhyamaka is rejecting actual functioning things. That's repetition of the functionality things is referring to the denial of the character, denial of the intrinsic existence or the characteristically existence.
rangi tseni ji chubala ini rangi tseni ji chubi rangshin la ngobo cha teme bala ngobo meba ma wasala es tanga so pese mata bitone katugi kwa lingi na oma tanjo ala ngobo meba ma wasede karire sa zana ini rangi tseni ji chubi rangshin ji ngobo ja teme ba ma wala ini ngobo meba ma.
So it is therefore Madhyamaka Prasangika is known as the philosophical tenets who rejects intrinsic character of self and phenomena. That's all.
Ngaso ike ka tendo a kasa jaya yume shunji ludu tanse lagdo ni jambe yana ma jibi shu ni jibi ludu se lawe di ni matsoge ni gobo ludu oma tanjo yoba lago ma meba lago yume ni ge tala kala nega mare se ni hashan ge tawa na ni mare es ni shu se de ko da goji chi yores me ba ma mare yo ba ma mare se lawa ma yo to maybe shu me ba lawo de ni rashin ji to be shu tani de maybe shu lo go gres.
So in the verse of the supplication verse, we find that Manjushri and Manjushri and the Nagarjunas who it says who do not accept either existence or the non-existence. So that doesn't mean again here that Madhyamaka Prasangika's standpoint is something that is existence or both existence or non-existence. But rather here, Madhyamaka Prasangika's standpoint is that something that exists but doesn't exist intrinsically and doesn't have an intrinsic characteristic.
No de ipon de ripa chuchi ben ripa les kanda tenjin rewa joyi chini de tin ma po shin ngompo na je rangi tsini yosu toba sheba deda la ngompo kenle yo na ne nyepa kona decha shedan jungwa yi tawa meze ma tawa meze maron zin delen jongyi tsuyo banjir she ngombo la rangi tsenyi che drondo bala ngombo kenlen de sumbi shiro dela no teda ki umaba la ranglu meba tenba mayinbe tsuyo do dan shi jabin reba changne sho yen ke lamba mebi shiro she tsisi le sumbi dendo teda sheba shao sondo.
So then in the passage that the preceding this verse identifies the assertion of the real things as a reflection of the intrinsic character in things, the Chandrakirti's commentary on its root texts. As for those who have not fathomed this reality, dependent arising, and who believe completely in the intrinsic character of things, if they assert real things, it's absolutely certain that they will cling to a stubborn and the pernicious views which will give rise to attachment and hostility, and disputation will be their result of those views.
Ay, kaza de kete de tanda de karasana ngobo ranji to ngobo demba to balan de cha de timu chigri jisi ngobo ranji to ye ba de se de dame to go mare se de la yubi kala ngobo me ba se de ngobo zimba se de ranji to ban zimba yimbi xie zhang do ngobo se de de ni ba chi ko ko ma yimba ni ngobo ranji to ngobo de kenlen ba yana de cha de timu de ni ta ma se ba yong re so de.
So sometimes we find that there are functionalities. We in the text that we may find that someone who doesn't accept functionality or the functioning things. That doesn't mean that someone who is actually rejecting the existence of the functionality. Rather, in this sometimes it is given in the context of or referring the functionality to the intrinsic character.
Aya, ta gaja chinya mebe ne ngane chinya mungo kos. De ngazo yemi memi ge tawa de katu ino kode bu shu kode no ko de shu jin do. Digin de hit sab se bu shu jo do. Gaja gaja chinya mebe ne ngane chinya mungo ko xie son be gaja la ni le. Shi yo bo do do bi yi chi gaja la xia te meba jinsen de shene mungo ba somba miri be 이진지 가자 이진지 가자 정도라 샤오 대인제 봐서
Therefore, the spiritual passages do not teach that the Madhyamaka have no system of their own. Hence, this is also how you should understand the meaning of the clear words passage that says, because we do not accept others' position in citing the repetition of objections and the foreign objections and the 400 stanzas to be refuted in the repetition of objection passage that states, since there is nothing to be refuted, I refute nothing. So might be might be interpreted in two ways. If we take what is to be refuted as referring to the object of the refutation, so the reification of this reification of things as intrinsically existence. So it makes no sense for the Arjuna to say that because intrinsic existence does not exist, he refute nothing. Hence, we must take it as a referring to the reifying consciousness that refuted. Sanskrit's commentary on the passage says that even the refuting agent does not exist. Hence, the non-existence of the both what is refuted, and the refuting agents refers to the non-existence of the refuted object and refuting agents that exist by way of intrinsic character. That's all.
네, 된다. 저 변화 가자 매와 인자된 게 가자 지어 고고 말했어야 돼. 아니 변화 라시 주바이나 맞아. 라시 주바 젬비 가자세 거로 가자텔라 라시 주바다 라시 주바 젬바니가 자고로. 다 라시 주바데 가자자는 지금 말에 지어 먹고서란 지금 말에 네 가자테 라시 주바 젬바 자그래. 에서네. 대다 치테레샤.
Good.
맞아. 이제 가서 tanto 이게 바텔 고아텔레나세 강이 베나 가자치야 메바네 녜네 가자 녜네 가자 찌야 몽고 고세티 이게 가자텔라 라시 투바 가자제 테 몽고 고세네 지게 마레스 라시 투바 짐비 가자테 요로 아세테다 다리핀 고순데 jelog메다
That's all.
마말라난데 치마샤
So when we talk about here the object of repetitions, the intrinsicness is the object of repetition that has been refuted, and the grasping at this object of repetition, in other words, intrinsic grasping at intrinsicness is the subjective object or subjective repetitions, which is to be refuted subjective object of repetitions, and the intrinsicness itself is the object repetitions. Object repetitions.
고셰장 여바 마인바 솜베 데니 메바네 랑게 체니제 주베 가자당 고셰 메바 데타 여바 존인 데레카 오 시 추추 고와도 시 솜바 인지 데니 주마다부 미시바네 마인데 쩨도레 주바 인네 주마당 주마 인네 주비 주마 제메 주마 고셰다 고pan 대양 대신 저를 시에다 띵인지 가르 게텐 진데 랑신유 때는 좀 민저로 zemba kanshi tenen jong teni toni mayi nang keten zemba 랑신유 zemba tela suyindo nama nang te tsu de yi deshe lenka teme to she mi jola chen zemba la 랑신유 na rangi jejen la tenen jong miron wa ta zemba te su jang do de miron wa sombi shere cese le sondo o te ba lo sha chino ni pa sa de sha
The commentary on the refutation of the objections has stated that the essential refutation exists that way that is by way of their intrinsic character. Insult us by saying that we do not we do that kind of repetitions. Nagarjunas does not assert that both refuted object and repeating agent are like illusions. Why his refutation of the objection states an animation can send out an animation, and the illusory being can use illusion in illusions. To stop illusions, this refutation works in the same ways. It also states that if the apprehension of the mirage as water intrinsically existent, it would not occur dependent upon its causes and conditions, and no one could overcome that apprehensions. If that apprehension intrinsically exists, then it could not arise dependently. Can any apprehensions that arise dependently help but be empty? If an apprehension intrinsically existed, then who could overcome it? The same procedures work for everything else. That is why there is no reply to it. Okay, 10 minutes break here.
哎，这个也俺你最低高的不知道的，咱这什么叫？这些来着，俺了当这没比写了写送吧，让路没比空忙一点，别呢让季节当这没比等于比写了就把来送的，小没把送吧呢。
Clear word passage that states as opposite of the absurd consequences. It's a reductive. Pertains to the opponents, but not to ourselves. For we have no thesis. Can also not be taken as a source of proof that Madhyamaka have no system of their own. But that passage means that they have no autonomous states. So what about the commentary on the middle passage, in which Chandrakirti says that he has no positions.
对对，这当然呢，可能当到看这些当到对讲一弄都是忙起来的，我们谈就前两让路也嘛的，前两了去学也嘛的噻的，看这前两其他的那个的生意也写些个弄的这样的，对应这些讲的怕看这的改的了，对吧？
So in this paragraph, it's normally it's mainly arguing with the opponents who opposes who objecting by saying or arguing by saying that Madhyamaka has no thesis on their own, because in which they are fallen into nihilism or the nihilistic view. So all these arguments are this particular paragraphs as responding to this argument, argued by the opponents.
可是看到的，俺了大家那边的，俺的全面看那一些的也，上戏去做吧，等变得上去掉的了，上去就大家那边等于别写了谁的，上去就大家写的，上戏去做吧，大家了搞过来，变得上去就他就大家我就这个了，上去就电视看呢，么呢，给些别个了，上去就电视看呢，来了上戏去做吧，看两个人，我们他就俺了上戏做吧，看两边大家没玩意思呢，俺了。
Therefore, the reason why the Madhyamaka Prasankhika said that I have no thesis of on my own is no thesis of on my own. He refers to the no thesis of intrinsic character existing of intrinsic characteristic of phenomena. That is, therefore, I have no thesis of on my own. That's what it says.
有把来说明把送把那样样的多的，让路了说，孙中山的这些人家上去就马主办对呗，去现在上去就主办对吧？当天天上马天呢，这个节吧，日本大把些呢，搞比孙中国家了民族的日本，大家都都。没个别写了，都没个别写了，写我们等于去，让路没把呢，但满意的。弄得有这把来说的。
It says then about the commentary on the middle of the passage in which Chandrakirti says that he has no position. And in his own system, Chandrakirti holds that neither his repetition refutation nor the position is refuting, refuting exists intrinsically. Therefore, when he used, the reason analysis to refute the other party's belief, that causes intrinsically give rise to their effects, asking whether the causes give rise to effects through the context with them or without contact with them. This refutation does not apply to the Chandrakirti himself, because he does not have to assert things that can withstand, rational analysis. This is what the passage means. It does not at all, imply that we have no system of our own. For the Chandrakirti's explanation of the middle way commentary comments on the passage.
nōng tē yin rē pā lē jī, kōwa chā kē shō lā tsōng bā tāwa mī jē tē, nāng kē shē kōwa chā kē shō lā nē sūn jīn bē sūn jōng wā, xiā wā chē nē chāng sūn jīn bā mī shē bā nī nī lē, sūn jīn bā dā sūn jōng wā, sūn jōng wā xiā wā mā chē bā yāng sūn jīn bā mī shē tē, sūn jīn bā dā sūn jīn bā nī kā rāng shī jī mā rū bē shē rō, tē yī shē rē chē bā tā mā chē bē sāng bā mī shē tō, xie ngōpo mawe gōbi ripi tāpa mīnchūpa nē, mīnchūpi jinsēn tō rāngshīn jī mādhūpa gōji, kēnlē mēpa mā gōbi shetang, ī shēje tō yōngchī ndō chāngpa lē, shārīpa sōntō.
So we do not fall into a similar absurdity in our own system, because from our own perspective, the refutation does not refute that it refutes by contradicting it, nor does the refutation refute what is refuted without contradicting it. So this is because neither the refutation nor what is refuted intrinsically exist. Therefore, we do not consider whether they make contact. So, and then why is that the rational analysis, proposed by the essentialists not applicable to the Madhyamaka's refutations? He says it is because the refutation that what it refutes do not intrinsically exist. We do not say that it is because Madhyamaka have no assertions. In support, he cites the perfection of the Wisdom Sutra in the 25,000 lines, where the Shariputra investigates and asks Subhuti about the kind of phenomena produced or unproduced, bring about attainment of the unproduced phenomena. That's all.
Tē shēje tō ndō chāngpa lē, shārīpa rāngchō lā sā, mā rē jē bā tāng mā jē pī chū kāngi mā jē pī chū tō bā tāng tō jē shē nē, jē wā nā, tē nī kē tō bā kā bā nā, shārīpa wā nā tō bā tāng tō bā mē tāng shē jē bā nā, ngā chāngpa tā, tē nī yueme ni ji chu ji ne me no di de yang ta ne de yin ji de tang ba me de xie song ba ben ze ne de ta ke lang ba song de jung de le de je ta ni se ta wa ju yu shi jie ba da ma ji bi chu ji to ba ga jin ni ga ngo bo me ba la me ri bi shi ro ma ta ban ji de je ta ni de to ba ke lang ba de jian do sun jin ba ne sun jong wa xia wa de sun jin ba 다 장 최반당 최반마인 매제자 타니의 순진비 순중과 순진바시의 시바샤오시 최바당 최마제지 리비 다바시나 데니 강라야 순진바 매장 대순진바 예바 메케바 타니의 진시 쇼 순진바 켈랑고바 세와 손비 쇼로 어서
After Sharifutta is refuted, the other kind brings it about. He then asks, is it that there is no attainment and no clear knowledge and nor clear knowledge? And Subhuti says, as it in the earlier citation, that this two do exist, but not dualistically. Using this as an example, Chandrakirti's explanation of the middle way commentary gives these explanations, because it would lead to such dualistic absurdities that sutra denies that the produced or the unproduced phenomena brings about attainment. Moreover, as dualistic analysis is inappropriate in the absence of the real things, attainment is accepted without analyzing according to the conventions of the worlds. Likewise, it is neither that refutation and what it refutes come into context, nor is it that they do not come into context. Nevertheless, you should analyze. You should realize that the conventionally a refutation refutes what is to be refuted. So this clearly states that when analyzed in terms of contact or non-contact refutation does not exist in either way.
Yeah. 대마제 치 주샤 주방 시바인데 마정비 대마타도 현양 제타 추진님이 진코 라유 체바나 조니라야 사주 라소 남세 통주라 니마 땅네 조니 넘버 체바 마제바 메리 메지 때네 타니 짠시 종지시 메덴제 더 랑게 시진 제바 주지샤 얘네 여바 제타 대신 대양 셔로동 장바샤라 님바 통원 주르시비 댄치네 태바당 제와장 주자또 셰셰바샤 제타 존이 셰샤와 중지지 여바 마인비 셔나 님이 진코당 체바 마체바 셰제 마체바 제시샤유 또바 넘바 탕제도 미시 메지 왼장진 주니와 주니도 미바나 또바 되비 된 니바셰바 대전도 장시제 동비 순진바 순종자 순진 좀바 진바당 장시제 동비 태바당 제위 댄시지 주바샤와 주와 예라 니스 타와양 민제라 민제외 아기 치라 타와 촌도 미리소 시셰바샤오 시 랑라 파 가비지비 고지 민주비 레테다 송니 송지 랑루메도 시에 마송소 예양 몬도사세 마송소세 대바자 랑루메바 시에 마송소세.
But since this analysis does not deny the existence of the repetitions, Madhyamaka must accept that conventionally there are repetition of the position taken by others. What is more, Chandrakirti also accept that the fact that the syllogistic reason establishes the probandum, and how so in other passages that immediately follows that one cites about his commentary on the middle way and explanation of the middle way commentary states. You can see that detail of the orb of the sun, such as in eclipse, even in the reflections of the sun, it is unreasonable to ask whether the sun and its image come into contact. Yet it does occur in a merely conventional and dependent way. A reflection is not something that is true, but in order to make your face beautiful, you treat it as existing. Likewise, the reasoning that have the power to cleanse wisdom's continence includes understanding of the point to be proven, even though they are improper according to the initial essentialist logic. This is how it should be understood, since reflected image does not exist in the list. It is totally impossible to consider whether it produced through contact or without contact with the orb of the sun. Nevertheless, when you see these reflections and reflections nearby from that its causal condition from that reflections, you ascertain that object that you are seeking to understand. So likewise, a refutation that is empty of intrinsic nature, refutes what is to be refuted, and the reasoning that is improper and it's empty of intrinsic nature proves that the point that is to be proven. Since this does not lead to the absurdities of the dichotomizing analysis, it is incorrect for you to claim that your own words, suffers from the absurdities similar to that which we find in your positions. This is how you should understand it.
Yeah. Rolo me ba ma so mi shiro chi. Jen rangshi ji chu ban de ba la ju che ne sang ma che ban je ba che ba je ta ba xe ne ka bi jen rang le mi ju ba yang rangshi me ban de bi jen se de xe ne pa wa yin je rang lu me je xe ne pa ba me de jun je le chu ji che ta xe na gang shin de da yi ja yang ne ju ma da che ba de yi xe dāla chūndu mīñjīn jī tēnpā yī ngōn pō nāng chāng yu. Kāngi tā nā rāngshīn cēnī chēpa xiawa, nī tā chēpa xēpa nī yīmba. Tēla nāmba xēpa jī jī, kāngi tā nā ngōn pō nāng lōpa kīn tāpi chēpa nī jī jūma tā mā chēpi rāngshīn yī jī rāngshīn mē chāng sā rārī chēn jī mī chāshī la sōpa tā nāmbā tōbi yu tu njōwa tēla nē sāntu mē pa nī tē. Tē shirē dāla chīki shēbi chūnchī kāp yōpa mā yī chī. Jitēnbi ngōpa mā tāpa chūpa nācāng yōpa yīmba tāngchī chūpa. Shē shēnla chūnchū bi jinsē tō rāngcē kēlāngba kō chī. Rāngla chūn mē bi jinsē tō jūma tāpa ndōpa sōmbē tētā shēna ōmi lū But
thus, this is how Chanakya explained his answer, that the argument we use against others' contact to be turned around. Others cannot be turned around the use against us. He does not say that he have no system of his, no system of our own. Moreover, while analyzing of whether the cause produce an effect with or without contact, refutes those who accept intrinsic existence. Chandrakirti gives our assertions of the absence of the intrinsic existence as the reason why this fault does not apply to us. This is how he avoids the fallacy. He does not avoid by saying that that we have no system of our own. For the explanation of the middle way, commentary says that how do we explain projections? It is because both cause and effects are like illusions illusions, and this is not a fault for us. The things of that world exists. That analysis is applicable to those who maintain that the cause and effects cause and effect respectively are intrinsically characterized as the producer and the producing things. But what about someone who maintain that since things are generated by false imputations, they are like illusion in that it is not their intrinsic nature to be produced. What about someone who holds that things like intrinsic nature but are the object of mental constructions? And like a falling hair that many appears to the person with eye disease, and that person who has no conception of the intrinsic productions. Therefore, there's no opportunity to fault. There's no opportunity to fault us, and why just explains. Also, since there's things of the world do exist, when left unanalyzed, everything is established. He gives this acceptance of the intrinsic character as the reason why the fault applies to the other positions, and believe that things are like illusions as the reason why we do not have this false understanding. This you should analyze how to present the mathematical system as being free from fault.
다 가지고 뭐 타저긴 도디니 단정 아니기 네 강의 시에는 루 동문이 뭐 선바 제바바도 루로 지시에네 아니 되게 주의 엄마 타저를 랑로에 말세야로다 아니 엄마 타저에 가서 그런 것에 얘네 바치다로 된게 저저저저도 얘한테 바꿔비 계셔래 이나 시 롱대신 이제 희전에 바꿔비 계셔래도 단 도디는 되는데도 얘가 좀 주비 말이 얘가 좀 주비 제세 가르래 아니 파쇼되게랑 세켈레오로 와서 라니를 좀 비전세 가르래 아니 조소 최초 요소도 바데 점마다도 되고로 와 전체지 시와이나 엄마빌루라 지한다 저와지 조시에 받쳐오래 해서
So it's all argument with opponents and one's own, the other system and one's own system, in other words. And all those are, summarized in this small paragraph, but he gives the acceptance of the intrinsic character as the reason why the false applies to the other positions, and the belief that things are like illusions as the reason why we do not have this false. Understanding this, you should realize how to present mathematical system as being free of fault.
다들도 정해대 저서 우미대전 나네 해서 되는 데다 얘라 되는 데다 미노 되던데 매도 되던데 여도 시 타여버시 송배 대다 장법고 대다게 시바 임발라 미세진지 롱장네 주바 갈라고스 지난 대방원처럼 대방원세거라 당가서 용이 기기만 창조시에도 조당만 시이노 맞서 농세대가 리바자된스 시에도 노르는 제시를 개발을 제시를 자유소다 얘는 되게 그 타이버지 여러 와서 지레시.
So here it says, in general, there are innumerable instances of definitive scriptures and mathematical treatises that make statements such as this is that why and not this way, or the such things exist, such things do not. So here it's talking about in general, there are innumerable instances of definitive scriptures and mathematical treatises that make statements such as this is that why, this is that way, and not this way, or such things exist, such things do not. Hence, they should it be necessary to cite special scriptural passage to prove that the statements presents the assertions of their authorities.
농장 갈아고 외치 됐다
authors.
Deta mayi na deta de to xie kenan na xie masumbi xiong deta ge kausi deta ge ten namba cheba na dene zamba pi lu sang de yi xeba wo dene deta mi na xie namba xie mini ba sumbi xero keten deba tang ke namba tang tang jawa xebi ci cheba gui nang mando song de zundo le tani kene ma namba nye cha chepa me xe to xe dang rupa chu chepa le chang ngon pon xiong wa xi pa la che tang go pa ta pa ta de xe tang pa nang chi chang ju ma xe di go pa xe dang gang da teni ngon pon nang chu yun da wa ta pa ne yang da ma yin lo pa lo mi pa de pa te da te me chu sa ma chu che dang je ten pa le de pa le chang so
Gile deba, gile deba.
Yetelin deba deba le chans. Nyun zan lo sta. O ma chi zo chi ka da ni kan ni min do.
So if it were necessary, then when we're explaining the meaning of the passage where expression like I accept such and I believe such and such are absent, it would be impossible to distinguish whether or not something present that says and belief of certain authors. But if you insist upon actual instances of expression like I believe, and I accept, and I possess. So these are by abundance. Nagarjuna's refutation and objection states that apart from asserting the conventions, we offer no explanations. And also Nagarjuna's successive stanzas of the reasoning states that things that arose and was destroyed is labeled as having ceased. Likewise, excellent being accepts cessations, that is like an illusions, and everything that arises dependently, like a reflection on the moon, is moon in water, is neither real nor unreal. Those who accept this are not seduced by the dogmatic views. And also Nagarjuna's praise of the transcendent one states, what arises from cause cannot exist without them. And so it is like a mere reflections. How can you not accept something so obvious? And again, from that same text, since it does not exist without what is felt, and feeling itself is felt. And the Buddha also accept that feeling does not exist intrinsically.
Yetelin deba deba le chans. Yang da jule xiong wa na deme pa ne yue mi be. Zonye ni da cong ba re. Sewa ji shi men de. Jie dang cuo jia me be de me be. Cuo ni ne da me be. Cuo de yang shang xin qi. Yue ba me ba qu qi xie jie dang. Xie ba bo da le ni jiang ta ne de ne qu qi den. Pinci de ba jie ni de zhu ba qu qi xie ba la. Xie dang re xi xi ne. Jue le jiang zhe ben zhong mi ri la. Ma xi le mi me lang dang zha yu jie wa. Qu ni xie jie dang. Den jin zhe wa kang xiong wa. Den ni qu qi dong ba xie xie song so. Zhong zhe le jiang song.
Since it does not exist without what is felt, feeling, the feeling itself is false. So Buddha also accept that feeling does not exist intrinsically. And also you have taught action and agent in a conventional way. You accept that they exist in mutual dependence. And also and effects cannot arise from cause that has been destroyed, and nor from a cause that has not been destroyed. But you assert that effects are produced as in a dream, and also you hold that whatever arises dependently is empty. Chandrakirti's explanation of the middle way commentary also states.
Tene taba kelang bi shiro, ko jage shola, tanya tangji cheba tawa minje la, paru bu jang deni kelang ba weba yino, xie ngeba kelang goba song xin, dian rawa yang mang, yang jungze le sodo.
The experts are of opinion that this position has no flaws and is highly beneficial, and you should accept it without hesitations. And also consequently, because we accept that things are dependently imputed, just as we accept that dependent arising merely the conditional nature of things, our position does not face the absurdity of annihilating all conventions, and others should also accept the same. So this passage states that it is definitely necessary to accept a variety of positions, and these are the many more like this. Again, the explanation with middle way commentary explains for this. For this is
Jungze le tangcha shepo teyi jesu jo nes, de ripe drubi she sheba as, teni telen jumi jenta ledan kala je, nyinga le jama yin jime pa ne kala yu, je tangcha shi she la. Sisi le jang, de tang jawa sombe na, gombo ludu dan dawa chabi lu la rang, de ke, ma rang de tang, ken le tang, Mara kene tang sa tang jawa yu ba yin no sa lu jiba gaba ne sa ter. Ngani nga tsu tanda lu sumba gaba ter do tu.
After stating those four theses, we explain how to establish them through reasonings. This does not arise from itself. So how could it form something else? Nor does it arise from both itself and something else. And how could it arise without causes? As the clear word also makes similar statements, the system of Nagarjuna, the protector, the Chandrakriti, does have its own beliefs, assertions, and theses, refuting the fourth misinterpretations.
Gaba ne lu jiba gaba ne sa. Ne de ne tani de rangi tsini ji ye jang rang tsin jibe shi zu tani dongo ban tangwa. Mele pa ne nga shi sin az umma pe shugu ngobo mawa la jenden jeba ki drupi ni ki lu la drupi tsusung bi ta soben dawa jabi lu su ndoba ne jiba mayi de ten jawa de la sisi ni mi ji shi yu ga ban zi bi she dang ten zha de ndo na de la ngobo to ju ji ta je tani mi jo yu mu jo de chu jang rang ji ji da yin ba do de me bi she ro de da ne da dong yang che ban ji yuan de zang le ma zhe so ma zhe ba wo so ma zhe wo ma zhe wo
This fourth system apparently accepts that intrinsic character exists conventionally, but refute the conventional existence of the intrinsic character. that withstands rational analysis. We have already explained that this is wrong. It also maintains that in the system of the Master Chandrakirti, when mathematicals use other center argument to prove something to essentially something to essentialist opponents, they use the reason that meet the three criteria and that are established for both systems. This is incorrect because the clear words specially refute this view. And if you hold such a view, even if you do not call that reason based on the real fact, it is inevitably an autonomous reasons. I have yet to explain these points so that is all I will say at this point.
Yeah. That's a really scenario. Got to the US the same when it's in Tanga, so young Chimotella Tabicola, and Lutombo taken the Bacare, long Shiji down the Tanjola, Chijon Caraton do, and Tombote de Hakovache, and Tijela, any Lutombo the car in Bicola, no dig Yada Caricariba, send the Lutombo Niba Somba Java Badala, Lule Changin in Sona, Tombo Lutombo de Niba Somba said the Luta Radatan, and Rada Tombi Jela, he Shiji Montosala, and the Tanjo Ipa, Jehe Jet and Yakarajo do Sena.
So it's not only just by reading this text alone is sufficient to understand what is being discussed. It requires other commentaries and supplements from supporting from other texts as well, because we need to take our time and look at this very carefully and seeing that first refutation of the misinterpretation, second repetitions, third repetition, and fourth repetitions. And in the first refutation, what is being refuted, and similarly look at the second refutation, what is being refuted, who is the opponent, and what has been refuted, and what kind of thesis that has been upheld by those opponents, and must be understood very carefully, and then try to understand the number of this repetition or the misinterpretations, and how we are refuting, and what is being refuted, and for what purpose that we are refuting those misinterpretations and so on. And it take our time and requires a rigorous studies and understanding.
Kasam Goboludu down Papa Lani the Jean Shimi Uma Pasedi, Uma by Yonso the Rajiba in the Tanjo Yonso to ye, Jean-Louis Conto Sanchitains or Yena, Mandeshi Debicola, Uma, the Goboludu Yakumbate, Rajibi, Umbata, the Chetawaj and the Dread and Draw, and Tanjo Cola, Tanjo Chetawaj and the Dread of God. You got you Conto Santa to Cochavara. The Richie called the Zoba Yonimato, the data de Cola, any. Goboludu shoe, Coronos should be color, any Oma Rajiba, Oma Tanjava, dead and Desha Shawasena, any most any second repetition I am here.
So this is all the arguments that Madhyamaka Swatantika would say that is their view is the actual view or the view of Madhyamaka Prasangika, or the view, the view of Nagarjuna, and whereas Madhyamaka Prasangika's followers such as Aryadeva and Chandrakirti would say that their view is the actual view of Arya Nagarjuna. And so therefore it is all between, the argument is held between Madhyamaka Prasangika and Swatantikas. However, and such argument may not have, not very sure whether this such argument may have taken when Arya Nagarjuna was alive.
Choose by the Sanjay Umataji, Tawadela Pepayan, Taylor Ledeji governor, choosing but the daughter in a Mado Jena Ledeji, the Jesse,
Although there are, again, when the Buddha Palita wrote a commentary on the Hari Nagarjuna's text, then there's been again and refuted and raised a strong argument by the Baba Vivekas. The Baba Viveka has, refuted all the views of the views which is commented by Buddha Palita. So, however, the way the Baba Viveka actually refutes the Buddha Palita's standpoints are not directly, but he indirectly refutes the Buddha Palita's standpoint or the commentary on Nagarjuna's work. So during the Diknak and Dharmakirti's time, there had been a lot of debates. Not only the debates among the Buddhist scholars, but debate mainly with the non-Buddhist scholars. However, we see some arguments, when we see some arguments in the text among the Buddhist scholars, but I don't think they have such a rigorous, argument may have taken place, and I'm not very sure about that. So most probably, although that we say that Dignaks and Dharmakirtis, when they had those arguments with other, philosophers, also non-Buddhist philosophers and so on, they had a rigorous debates and all. They are said to be the upholder of the mind-only school and so forth. But if you really think very carefully, the way they had the arguments or the debates with the non-Buddhist scholars, it is quite clear, my opinion, they actually holds, the Madhyamaka's standpoint when they have argument with the non-Buddhist scholars. So for us now, we are just following the text and also try to, use our own intellect to be able to understand the dependent originations, the subtlety of dependent originations, the dependent originations of the cause and effect, dependent origination of the parts and wholes, and dependent origination of imputed existence or the mere imputed existence, and so on and so forth. And so this now, as we are at this point, intellectually not capable of to grasp on all this understanding of this dependent originations, but yet at the same time, we should have this conviction in ourselves that when it comes to the actual existence of the things in the event, there's no other ways to establish rather than, based on dependent originations, on dependently existence. If you have this kind of idea of things that exist not intrinsically, things that exist not on their own way or in and of itself, but their very existence is dependently designated. As long as you have this kind of view, not only just believing, but if you have your own reasonings, then this will help us to further our understanding of subtlety of dependent originations. So let's do our dedication right now. All those mirrors that we have accumulated, our accumulation of mirrors of 3 times, in other words, and all those mirrors become a cause for actualization of the ultimate nature of reality. And it is as a result of such actualizations, me, myself, and all other sentient beings to be able to, gain the state of complete enlightenment, before long. And may all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless me to be able to do this.
家园在把人都终究尽，朗诵诸位听见诸邪经，夜间世界门当明明根，切到更多家园很不易，忙到浪荡这往忙就尽，刚才天把就了去去去。最近住了怎么的月子，土地能就到都主席去，朝夕将此手教就去，就在那边过菜到天津，那个天天说着节目呢，老早点别这面上上去，昨夜面色到。念旧记，刚着说也过一心安时，天当的我忙念旧业的，现在在我点在交作业，小别身体不念旧记，小别宝贝知道钱不到，更多人不点样的见的，得到根据就是到了去。夜晚的大当前绕多么，有种西边家我当前去，我刚了就多看把的，大前个月早晚的跟上，让不谢谢绕多我就，哎呀，不去，天就。